Mortlock, the creative director of MCG QS, built quite a large operation, one of the biggest in Australia within it, been listed in the AFR Fast 100 list, top 50 thought leader in Australian real estate by the Elite Agent magazine.
Our goals were really modest. I think Marty and I put in about $7,000 each to start the business.
Yeah.
And the first thing was like, I just want my $7,000 back. You know, I don't care if it fails, but I just want, like, I can't have it fail and lose money. That's even worse.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's just get the $7,000. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to probably up the goals a little bit. And we kept upping them and we kept hitting them.
Obviously, you built quite a big business in that space. 7 years in, what was the catalyst to have such significant growth during that period?
Yeah, so focusing on what we could control.
Okay.
Because when we went out, we had some big gorillas in the room that were trying to sort of stop our success. We had one of our competitors buy advertising space on the proviso that I wasn't allowed to be a contributor anymore. And I got a little bit depressed about it. But then I thought, if they care that much about me and my tiny little business, maybe they see something in me that frightens them. And that flipped the switch for me.
It was 2018, that you guys were listed in the AFR Fast 100 during your phases of growth, like your best phases, your worst phases. Man, what are the key lessons and takeaways you took from it?
I think really the best person to estimate a construction cost in the world is a quantity surveyor. Okay. So we're the people that estimate construction costs. There's a million different reasons why you would want to know how much something costs to build, but that's the profession.
Okay. Two biggest reasons: appreciation reports. What would you say is the other biggest?
Oh, I would say,
what do you believe is the number one character trait of the top 1%?
I don't think it's drive or self-belief. I think you can overcome a lack of skills, you can overcome a lack of knowledge if you...
Magic Mike Mortlock. Mate, welcome to the Top 1% podcast.
I think you coined that term, the Magic Mike.
I did.
I've never been a stripper. I haven't watched the movie or anything.
I've been told, I have had people write in and say that you're hotter than Channing Tatum in Magic Mike. So
yeah, was that from like Mike.Mortlock at
I'm not going to disclose who wrote that in, but yes, it has been written in before, man.
Anyway, weird, but thank you.
No worries. Mate, it's good to have you in the studio. You and I have known each other for quite a long time. Mate, you are the creative director of MCG QS.
I make stuff up. I mean, it's good. It's like when people introduce you and you've written your own intro. It's like, it's good to write your own review. I can come up with whatever title I like.
You know, the company you run is obviously a quantity surveying company. You've built it to a large, quite a large operation, obviously, as well, man. You're one of the biggest in Australia within it. Been listed in the AFR Fast 100 list as well, man. So pretty impressive rap sheet, dude. And like, obviously, one of the other things you got picked up for as well, top 50 thought leader in Australian real estate by the Elite Agent magazine.
I lost that gong actually this last year. I think it was the year before.
You're still in it though, man.
So I assume I'm 51st. I'm just having a year off. I don't know exactly what it means. I think there was a particular year where we did a lot of press releases. So I was sharing lots of data and they're like, that's interesting. We're putting it on the site. That's how you got on. Or I just didn't send the check off this year or something.
I love how you're talking it down immediately every time I bring up an accolade. But anyway, mate, then the other one obviously being Geared for Growth, man, the Geared for Growth potty, which holds probably a little bit of a dear place in my heart, mate. Back in 2019, when I was doing my first sort of rounds of podcasts, mate, I remember we had a beer in Sydney after a couple of meetings in the city, and then mate, I came on that with you as well. So, mate, a long time running for that as well. Like, I mean, that was 2019. When did you first start that?
I think it was 2017 I started.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been going for quite some time. We sort of changed the format and we went from the long form. Like I used to, my catchphrase thing was, you know, what were the posters on your bedroom wall growing up? And I did like long form hour things. Okay. Now we do like 20, 30 minute ones and we reset the count, like so episode 1. Yep. So I actually don't know how many episodes, maybe 400 or 500 or something like that.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
It's a lot.
That's crazy. Now, funnily enough, like Geared for Growth, which obviously Top 1% podcast is all about elite performers and what they've done. Geared for Growth isn't so much about obviously what this is or like business growth or anything like that. It's more about obviously property growth. But dude, 400 to 500 eps is massive, man. Like the longevity in that is huge as well. So, mate, massive congrats.
Thank you. It's not good. I'm just consistent.
It's consistent. It's consistent, mate. It's good.
I just won't stop.
Mate, I love it. And now, man, you hit me up up yesterday. We had in the studio yesterday recording Matt Hall, Red Bull racing legend.
I hope he sat in this chair because I just want to like suck up all of his energy. I mean, he's an absolute legend of a player. As it turns out, I won't say why, but he's a client of ours as well. I did meet him once just at his little airport.
Well, he spoke about his commercial properties yesterday, so I'm guessing it potentially has something to do with that. And obviously his airfield as well, right? That he owns. Don't you live there at that lake?
Yeah.
It's like
Lake Macquarie. Yeah, and I've lived, over the years, I've lived really, really close to that. Yeah. And as a youngster, I would stand at the end of the runway when Aero Pelican used to be there, and then they would turn around and you'd get all that Jet A1 in your face. This is a story about drug addiction.
Is that why you look like that?
Exactly.
Sorry,
but no,
mate.
every time
that's a brutal intro.
you can hear Matt's planes for the joy flights that he does, and he's an absolute weapon of a bloke, and really is kind of living the life that I wanted when I was like a kid. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was it, make or break. There was a lot of things that were going to get in the way of that. My eyesight's one of them. Okay. But I had health issues and it just was, off the table for me. But,
didn't eventuate.
Big fan of his, loved his book. Yeah, legend of a guy.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Mate, before his ep drops, I'm actually going to head up there in early June and I'm going to go for a joy flight with him in his Red Bull. You should come, mate.
I'll fly in my Cessna. Just look like a dog.
You can do some somersaults. We can do some somersaults around you.
It'll be awkward. You don't want me there because I'll just be like I'm meeting like I'm the biggest fanboy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unreal, man. That's unreal.
Great.
He was telling me how he's got the seaplane on his house at Lake Entry and he flies it over instead of driving because you go all the way around the other side. He just flies the seaplane. Like, what a flex.
I have seen that seaplane. Now that all makes sense.
There you go.
Like, who owns that thing? It's weird. Yeah, anyway, he's got a number of planes.
He does. He was filling us in. But mate, we're here to talk about you today as much as Big Matty is an absolute legend and I can't wait to bloody go jump in that Red Bull plane with him and he reckons he's going to pull 14 Gs on me, so we'll see how that goes.
Like that. You'll be out like a light. I mean, he'd have to be one of the most G-fit people. Anyway, We're not supposed to talk about Matt, but...
G-fit?
Yeah. Like
Magic Mike, come on, man. This is a G-rated podcast.
I don't even know what that means. I presume you're being naughty, but G-force is something you've got to build a tolerance to, and you'll be out before he is, which is important because he's in control.
Yeah, he's one flying, so I hope I'm out before he is. Mate, one of the other things I wanted to kind of ask you about, which I think is funny considering your personality. Man, you are in a way, like quite honestly, a bit of a celebrity in the property space in Australia. You are, man. Everyone knows who you are.
I got recognised on the street once.
Once? Was it me?
No, it wasn't you. I actually thought I was about to have a fight.
Really?
There was a guy on a bike and he stared at me. I'm like, what's going in? Then he looked back and then he came and he said, "Are you Mike Mortlock?" I'm like, this is a G up. Sammy's giving you $50 or something and where's the camera? I'm on Punk'd. I'm not a celebrity, but I've built a bit of a profile. Yes, I'll let you say that.
Okay. You've built a profile. We'll go down that avenue. Man, even kind of diving down that avenue for a second, man, building that brand out, building that profile out before we jump into everything with MCG. How massive has that been for what you've done as well? Even from, the Geared for Growth and all the other stuff you've done. Everyone's obviously got their different niche in terms of how they succeed in business. But how important do you think that has been to your growth within the business, within the quantity surveying space, having such a strong focus on that for so many years as well, man? Like you said, 2017, we're in 2025, dude. So we're talking an 8-year window of pushing hard for that and everything else as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's a really difficult one to quantify.
Yeah.
And people ring me quite regularly and say, what do you think about starting a podcast? And, and unless they've got the personality of an indoor pot plant, I normally say yes. But when then they say like, like how much money do you make on it? I'm like, oh, no, it probably costs us money to run the podcast. It depends what your product is as well. Yep. Like the average price of a thing that we sell is under $1,000, which would be very different to your business. Yep. And there'd be some people that are selling, $1 million ticket items. Yep. So the cost per acquisition of a customer, it has to scale to suit the business, right? So like Facebook ads is not a great thing for our business because we sell something for $600, $700, it doesn't really work.
Yep.
But it is something that I've lent into a fair bit and it opens up opportunities, right? I'm back in the day when you talk about us having a beer in Sydney, I presume that you saw the podcast and you reached out to say hello.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the podcast.
For sure.
And I remember, I've told a lot of people this story, but I remember sort of seeing you, and you had some success at that point in time. You'd done really well with property. You were, quite young, and I didn't really know anything too much about you, but being from the country, having a humble background, I saw bits of myself. And I just thought, I'm going to help this guy. I'm going to get him on the show and do what I can. and I just laugh because I think you didn't need any of my help, right? But I mean, that's just one example. We've built a great friendship on the back of that. I've had people like Shane Oliver on the podcast. Yeah. He wouldn't know who I am, I'm assuming, even though I spoke to him for a year. I'm just a media box to tick for him. So I've been able to get exposure to people that I wouldn't normally have. And look, I think building that profile opens opportunities for speaking gigs. And I feel like my job as sort of like the face, as it were, of MCG is to half kick in the door for our sales guys. Mm-hmm. Because if they sort of knock on the door and say, oh, hello, Mr. XYZ, I want to sell what MCG does, even if they can go, oh, that's that nerdy bloke with the glasses who keeps doing those dad jokes. You're from that, aren't you? Like, even if that is, possibly not even a positive thing. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity. If we're at least known, yeah. There's an implication that we must be doing something all right to be known. For sure. So I've definitely lent into that.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that, and it's funny because I laugh with you saying that, but man, I'm always. I actually had an investor episode yesterday with a guest who I would have signed on around about the same time. It would have been, I think I recorded with you late 2019, and he was a client in early 2020. And he's like, it still feels surreal that I still work with him. And I'm like, man, you're an OG, dude. You know what I mean? And so it's when you say that, it's like, all the little wins, you never know who it's going to stack up for. You know what I mean? It's like stacking all those little wins was where I am now. But I realized the opportunities like that, like being able to get on the podcast and build the profile for myself in that way, it had such a profound and prolonged impact, I think, over everything I've done. It's same as, like you said, it's getting on these different things and building that profile. Every little bit helps, man, especially when, like you said, I was very, very early in the piece. So yeah, man, it was super helpful. And that's why I've always thanked you for it. I've always been, dude, maybe it's a country boy in me, but it always, I'm always very, reflective of those things and those moments as well, man. So yeah, it's cool, man.
No, I love that story. I'm from the country myself, and I can just remember when I was coming up, people not giving me the time of day, or they might meet with me, but just constantly looking over my shoulder for someone more interesting to talk to or the next best thing. Yeah. I hated that. It made me feel really, really small. So when I'm present with someone, I be present, I listen to their story, and if they're a good person and their heart's in the right place, I want to try and help them.
For sure.
And I just kind of think that's funny because, as it turns out, you've probably done 10x more for me than I've done for you. But, to be in a position where that kind of alchemy can even happen comes from putting yourself out there and doing the media. And the way that we've sort of done it, I think, to disproportionately be featured in the media compared to the size of our business is using our data and leveraging our data to tell stories. Yeah. And that's something that I've been crafting for quite some time. Yeah. And when I was a kid, if I saw a Ferrari, I would think that was a celebrity. That was my idea of wealth. Like, you're only rich if you're famous, and you're only, rich comes after fame. You don't get famous for being rich unless you're the top 1%, like a Richard Branson or something like that. But it's kind of weird because I think 3 weeks ago I was on Channel 7 and it was a busy day. I didn't tell anyone. So my old man rang me up and he's like, what are you doing on Channel 7? Like I should have told him or something. And it's quite surreal, like sitting there. My children were bored. They didn't want to watch it. I'm like, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
But when I was a kid, I thought to be on TV you had to be special. Yeah. But I'm just me. I'm just a bloke, I'm the same as everybody else. Probably even worse in many respects. But that, I suppose, appearances like going on Channel 7 for 4 seconds, that comes from all of the work we put in, earlier. And, for me, it started really with doing writing for what was Property Observer back in the day. That's gone now. I think it was bought by Urban or something like that. But just, submitting the articles, then doing the podcast and grinding away.
I love it, man. I love it. It's cool. It's been an interesting journey to watch as well, mate. And even like yourself sort of scale up and overtake people who I probably thought were bigger, especially say 10 years ago, and really only sort of noticing you as I came onto the space, and then kind of how much I feel like you guys have taken a good market share as well. So it's been cool to watch, mate. But if we fast forward and jump into, I guess, MCG, right? So quantity surveying. And actually give us, for anyone who doesn't know what quantity surveying is, give us a 15-second elevator pitch.
I can do better. The best person to estimate a construction cost in the world is a quantity surveyor.
Okay.
So we're the people that estimate construction costs.
Yep.
There's a million different reasons why you would want to know how much something costs to build,
Yep.
but that's the profession.
Okay. Two biggest reasons: depreciation reports. What would you say is the other biggest?
Oh, I would say right now for us, insurance.
Okay.
That's a real passion project.
Okay.
We've been leaning into
Really?
maximize and protect.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't sell insurance,
Yep.
but when you insure your property, how do you know what it would cost to rebuild it? You don't. You use a calculator, you use
Interesting.
gut feel, you use a Masters and Homes ad of a house that looks better than yours. There's all sorts of different ways that we do it. But, we want to protect people. It's great to go out and build a massive portfolio,
Yes.
but if you are risking it, you want to understand exactly how you're risking it. We actually even had a client we said, okay, you're about 30% underinsured. And they're like, oh, good, I'm going to up it to 20. I'm like, what? Then you're still underinsured. Like, no, I've got all this cash to the side.
What?
I just wanted to know exactly, and I'm comfortable with that. And I'm like, each their own, man. You do your thing.
Put yourself 200 over, you know what I mean? Like whatever, just be that bit over and then pray that it gets burnt down.
I don't know.
Oh man, it's actually, no, I won't go into that story. I had a funny story around that, but I probably shouldn't put it on air. Not about myself personally, but a conversation I had with someone once. Man, running through that. So obviously you've built quite a big business in that space as well. Man, how did it all come together? Fruition of it actually starting, you becoming quantity surveyor, and then starting your own gig, own business. I know you obviously partnered with Marty as well, right?
Yeah,
how did that all sort of come to fruition before we jump into the big growth piece that obviously came through later?
Yeah, well, obviously my fighter pilot career didn't take off. I think Matt stole it from me, even though I think he's about 10 years older than me. And I had some health issues during my HSC years.
Okay.
So I had chronic fatigue syndrome and had immune deficiency. So I ended up having to do year 12, 11 and 12 over 3 years. And then there was a gap of time where it's like, okay, well, I've got to fill in the time because this isn't really a full-time study load. So I did a real estate diploma. That was back in the days where to be a licensee, it actually took you a year full-time study, not like 4 minutes and a Wheaties cutout thing like it does these days.
What are you saying, Mike?
I don't. Yeah, look. That's another episode. And I realized real estate wasn't for me. I was in real estate for about 10 or 11 months.
Okay.
But I'm an introvert and I don't like being out there. And I mean, it's
Door
different
knocking
now.
and
I've gotten used to
and-
talking. All that sort of
It's
stuff.
brutal, but man, it's a brutal game.
Yeah, and I don't want to convince someone to do something that they don't want to do.
Okay.
Like especially, and that's fine. Like if you're buying a house on behalf of a buyer, like you negotiate hard because that's your job, that's your brief. But when I was sort of bashing people over the head to renew the listing or accept a certain price, I'm like, that's not for me. So I moved over into valuation. I was going to be a valuer because I knew I liked the data and the analytics and I loved property.
Yep.
But then I got a job working for a quantity surveying firm. They convinced me to switch over my credits. I actually ended up getting no credits and just did the degree.
Okay.
And look, I wouldn't say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a natural business person, but I was just kind of pushed to the point where it was sort of untenable where I was.
Yep.
And just decided that, I was arrogant enough to think I could go and do it better.
All right.
But it was, it's different. Like I was a team leader of sort of the tax area, and going from that where I had support people and admin people to by myself, with Marty, right? But I'd answer the phone, I'd send the emails, I'd do the inspections, I'd do the reports. And it's interesting, like when we first started, I had a contract gig working for an Italian rail signaling company, which is niche. And I would do reports of a night, but I would set my emails to go at like 9:30 in the morning because I didn't want people to go, this bloke only ever sends stuff at nighttime. Now it's more like I'll set it to go at night so they know I'm busting my backside to get this out for them.
Yeah, that's
It's just all perception, right? But we were lucky enough to get some pretty good wins early on. Like nothing was handed to us, but we just had a steady bit of growth.
Yep.
We got a few people on board, people that had expertise in that space,
Yep.
and they kind of bought into our vision and what we were trying to do. And it was sort of a bit like giving the keys to the inmate sort of thing.
Okay.
It's like, we're going to model this business around everything that kind of gave us the shits
Yep.
about working for a certain company,
Fair enough.
and do it our own way.
Yep.
And just having fun and kicking goals along the way.
And so just kind of naturally grew from there.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it was 2018, yeah, that you guys were listed in the AFR Fast 100.
Yes.
What was the catalyst for that? Because and you started the business, was it in 2011?
2011.
2011. Okay, so we've got talking a 6-7 year window, obviously, until you hit that financial year where you won it. Where you were in the list as well.
We didn't win.
Yeah. I've been a fair way up the list as well, and
You
like
have.
the top few are normally like it's a ridiculous, right? They're like stratospheric.
400% growth in a year or something.
Wow, man, like some of them are wild, but yes, they're huge numbers. Man, what do you think were the catalysts 6 to 7 years in? Was pretty much say 7 years in, what was the catalyst to have such significant growth during that period? Because obviously you also weren't in the fast starters where like it can be like you can have you go from doing 10 deals or whatever to 50 and it's just this huge change.
Yeah.
But when you're actually an established business, it's a lot harder for a significant percentage change year on year. And it's a compounding 3-year event, right? So that compounded growth rate. What changed over that 6, 7, 8 year window that enabled you guys to what was the big change?
Yeah. So when we started the business, we weren't actually trading for a bit. We basically started it and we were building the ecosystems and the stuff behind the scenes. So had we had registered the business when we were ready to go, we would have made the fast starters.
Okay.
But because we kind of stuffed around,
Delayed it a bit.
I had a full-time job and I was working on the weekends and nights.
Yep.
My business partner, Marty, I went out of that full-time job, became the first employee of MCG. He was another year behind.
Wow, okay.
And then it was maybe 6 months before we got our next employee sort of thing. So it wasn't necessarily that we were sort of doing this and then we went boom.
Okay.
But we did have a solid period of growth. So, yeah, you're right that it's the 3 cumulative years, but you sort of need 4 years to get that trend line.
For sure.
And the minimum cutoff point was the first qualifying year had to be over $500,000 of revenue. I think that's now a lot higher. It might be $1 or $2 million or something. It has changed a little bit.
I can't remember what it is for fast. I think fast starters is $500,000. I feel like I can't remember what the fast 100 is. I can't remember because that's obviously the category we're in now as well.
Yeah, back then it was like 4 years ago you had to do $500,000.
Yeah.
So it took us a while to we didn't do $500,000 in the first year.
Yeah.
We didn't do it in the second year. But then it was just a matter of just kind of focusing on what we could control.
Okay.
Because when we went out, we had some big gorillas in the room that were trying to sort of stop our success. So, for example, I talked about writing for Property Observer. We had one of our competitors buy advertising space on the proviso that I wasn't allowed to be a contributor anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I was doing it for free. I went to their Christmas party and they said, one of your articles actually was our #1 downloaded thing. It doesn't matter if someone throws money at you.
Yeah, it's game over.
So I kind of thought, geez, if this is going to happen, we're probably gone, and I got a little bit depressed about it. But then I thought, if they care that much about me and my tiny little business with like 2 or 3 people in it,
they're worried,
and they're a massive organization, then maybe they see something in me that frightens them, and that flipped the switch for me. And
so put a bit of a fire in the belly?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
And I realized that we couldn't compete on marketing. Like our annual revenue would have been maybe 5% of their annual marketing budget, right? So I'm like, okay, well, we can't do these ads, but what we can do is we can just under-promise and we can over-deliver and we can focus on the easy things. Like I think everyone gets kind of enamored by the shiny object sort of stuff, or you look at things like the weight loss industry. Why is it worth so much money when all you have to do is eat less calories than you burn? Right? So that doesn't make sense. So it's sort of like, okay, well, let's focus on the easy things.
Yeah.
Let's look at those inputs. There are a few things that I think we did really well. Like we got into retargeting really early.
Okay.
So instead of like going out there and advertising, it's people that are already in our ecosystem. We can re-advertise to them at, pennies on the dollar sort of thing.
Yep.
And just relationships. We were in a marketplace where competitors didn't have a relationship with the people they were working with. They would just email them in mass EDMs or send out brochures, but we would just go and sit with an accountant or a property manager, say, this is what we do, this is why we're passionate about it, this is why, you know, we are going to plug into your business and we are going to make you look good. And if you trust us with that, then we will die trying to achieve that. Just little stuff like that. And, you know, our goals were really modest. I think Marty and I put in about $7,000 each to start the business.
Yeah.
You know, we had to buy some software. We had to get a logo. And the first thing was like, I just want my $7,000 back. You know, I don't care if it fails, but I just want, like, I can't have it fail and lose money. That's even worse.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's just get the $7,000. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to probably up the goals a little bit. And we kept upping them and we kept hitting them. And I would never celebrate. I would just say, well, why did I aim so low? Like, that's the problem. That's why I hit it, because I aimed too low.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time in and around that Fast 100 where I forced myself, I paused and I'm like, okay, I am a freckled kid from Yarrawonga Creek and I've got myself on this list of Australia's fastest 100 growing companies. You know, I bought a secondhand sports car. I sort of sat there. I videoed myself. I can vividly remember going, don't forget this, you little bastard. This is a big deal for you. You know, like you would have seen this driving around, you know, where you grew up and going, wow, what is that? Even though it was, you know, it's like an 8 or 9 year old car or something. To me, it was massive.
Yeah. I love that, man. So focusing on the controllables. So things you can control, not the things that are outside of your control, and then focusing on the little things, getting the little things right. And it sounds like kind of really focusing on tweaking them rather than focusing on what's the biggest and best thing I can implement. It's, well, what are the little things that need to be mastered sort of internally? Would you say that's correct?
Yeah. And I think leaning into our strengths as well. So I couldn't beat the marketing engine. I couldn't beat the coverage around the country. So we had to start, and we're a national business now, but we had to constrain ourselves. But yeah, just focused on my own strengths as well. So because I'm a technician, right? So I used to win jobs based on the questions that I would ask. I remember quite some time ago, a guy who owned a winery, and I said, okay, so when it comes to the winery, do you own like the freehold land, or are you operating a business there? You know, is there a bottling line? You know, have you got all of the, you know, the hoppers and the de-stemmers and all this sort of stuff? And, you know, how much trellis, and is it all irrigated? And he's like, geez, like the other person just sort of said how many acres, and then they said, all right, I'll send you a quote. Like, I want to work with you because you know what's going on. You know this industry. And like, I've never been a vineyard. I don't know that much, but I know the ATO legislation and I've done a couple of wineries before. And I'm like, these are the key things because I've just done it. I wasn't a salesperson. I was a technician. So I was like, oh, I can't out sales a salesperson, but they're not going to be as technical as me. So just focus on what I'm good at.
Win on the technical. Yeah. So focusing on your skill set and then delivering on that and selling that in a way. It doesn't seem like it was a pushy way. It was a confident close in terms of what you had, what your skill set was as well.
And I think I've lent into sort of like the anti-sales. Like sometimes people get upset where I'll say, look, I don't care if you work with us, just work with somebody, because if you don't do this, you're missing out.
You're going to lose out.
And, you know, I'm sure Marty sometimes would look at me going, just say we're the best. You know? But I just kind of think that's a country ethic, I suppose. It's honest. It's like, I care about you and your results more than I care about taking money from you. I'd love to help you. I think I'm the best person to do it. But what's most important to me is that you use somebody to do it, because your outcomes will not be as good if you don't get it done.
I get you.
And I think if you truly believe that, then people pick up on that and they want to work with people that are actually caring about you and your outcome. Because it's all about solving problems, right?
I like that, man. And I think that really boils down to the relationships you've built and sort of the brand that you've built as well, of people. You know, you've built connections with people. And I think like even what you say, when you go and sit with people, you know, and you generate a lot of business out of that side of things from that relationship you build. And again, even with the geared for growth stuff too, you know, I mean, it makes sense kind of building those relationships and then kind of having that referred relationship, you know, model. The other huge part of it, man, is keeping your cost base down of acquisition. acquisition and even the retargeting the existing people. It's something that we have a massive focus on at Australian Property Scout is, man, I've always had this philosophy. I just want to do great deals by people so that they can never come back and ever have a feeling towards me that I had towards a BA that burned me back in the day as well. And so like when you run by that moral compass and that moral code, it hyperfixates on doing a great job. And the natural benefit of doing a great job is someone wanting to come back and work with you again. And man, I've never understood why people don't follow that philosophy in business. But I don't know if it's, again, being a farm boy and growing up from that perspective, having a strong moral compass, being burnt myself during those pieces. I don't know if people just haven't experienced that amount, like those experiences in life, or I guess like little traumas here and there. Like when I got burnt, little traumas, when I got burnt, 10 grand, I was making 70 grand a year and netting 55 grand or something like that. Like 10 grand was a huge amount of money. And I don't know if it's like these things that just make me think like that, but I just don't understand why so many people don't think along that way like that. And that's what we run literally the business model around. And the psyche of it is not how can we service 1,000 clients, it's how can we service 100 clients, and service them exceptionally well. And if we do that 10 deals for those 100 clients over their lifetimes, it's still the same amount of deals, but we built better relationships with people and they've got the result they came to us with, not just tick and flick 1,000 clients. Because where's the relationship? Where's the experience? The cost of acquisition is significantly higher.
That's a big one. That can't be understated. Huge. Right? Like if you, let's say you're starting Australia's first buyer's agent business that only works with new people, like you're at a huge disadvantage. Like you can't have repeat business. The cheapest way to get people in that don't ask as many questions, that don't require as much time because they know, like, and trust you, they understand the process. Like you want that repeat business. Sure. That's a tricky thing in our industry because not everyone buys an investment property every month. If people keep listening to this, they might. But that's also another thing that we lent into. It's like, well, how do we stay top of mind to these people that might buy a property every 7 years, right? So we thought, okay, we'll do a newsletter. But newsletters are garbage. And I say that with respect because there are some people in Australia that have great newsletters, really good quality stuff that I will read. But they are tarnished by everyone. It's 1%. It's 1%. That's the show, right? Yeah, for sure. So we were kind of thinking, all right, well, how do we kind of stay relevant to these people and join in with their journey? I mean, these days we're sharing property data on the performance of their properties. But in the beginning, it was geared for growth. It's like at the end of the thing, I've got a little present for you. I'm sitting down with all of the best and brightest in the property space, and I'm going to deliver that to you weekly, as a thank you to you. I'm doing it for our clients. And that was the original idea. It was just for our clients. It was public. Anyone could jump on board, but it was for them. Yeah. It's good, man. And then it turns into its own beast off the back of that as well. I love that, man. Last question, I guess, probably like around the business side of things as well. Key lessons that you learned during your phases of growth, like your best phases, your worst phases. Man, what are the key lessons and takeaways you took from it? I think really what gets measured gets managed. And I think if you don't have visibility on all of your data points, you are, I don't know what I can say on this show, but you're urinating into the wind.
Okay, you can say anything you want, mate.
Oh, good. You're pissing into the wind if you don't know. Urinating's probably
You're banned. Yeah, it's worse. No. Urinating's worse.
I've cancelled myself. I think those things are really key. And I really misunderstood the value of people.
Okay.
Like, especially if you're a business that gets to a certain size, like the difference between an energized person and an unenergized person is huge. And that people can actually become toxic and that can get out of hand. Getting the people right is so important because it's so costly to manage the people that don't want to be there.
And even the cost of acquisition of bringing someone new in and the timepiece of someone, being unqualified out or incorrect fit out as well. I feel
that's absolutely key. And one thing that I just get amazed time and time again is that every now and then we make a mistake and someone will say, I'm disappointed because this happened. You get on the phone and you say, hi, I just read your comment. I just wanted to ring you up personally. And first of all, say, I apologize for that. I didn't start the business to receive feedback like that. It breaks my heart to do that. So firstly, I apologize and hopefully I already have solved it before that phone call even happens. And I say, this is what we're doing. to rectify that situation. And those people have become some of our biggest raving fans.
Yep.
It's so amazingly powerful.
Yep.
You know, and everyone will have something go wrong. It might not be your fault. It might be the property manager said they were going to be there at a certain time and it looks like we made the mistake.
It's inevitable, man. Mistakes are inevitable. But I think owning it, like I think what you're getting at there is owning those mistakes and exactly that, taking ownership of it, creating a solution if you can, and then effectively moving on from there, man. And again, like you said, like turning that negative into a positive, and exactly what you say there, sometimes turning people into raving fans as well. So I love that, man. I love that. Some really good little takeaways from that piece too, man. Mate, moving into probably like the final couple of questions here as well, mate. Any plans, any big things you're looking to do with either with Geared for Growth, with MCG? Like, what are you, with yourself personally? What are you looking to do moving forward? You've obviously had a couple of monster years, a couple of big stonky years. Anything big planned in the pipeline?
Yeah, look, we're always looking for opportunities to acquire complementary businesses that sort of sit with what we do, whether they be businesses that are quantity surveyors or they work in the same sort of area, because it costs us a certain amount of money to go and visit a site. So while we're there, we want to sort of try and figure out what else can we do. That's where the insurance stuff can fit into it. So definitely looking for those opportunities.
So acquisitions of either the same or like almost like a bolt-on of something that would complement you guys.
And I mean, that is a great strategy in and of itself. I mean, if you've got the right business, you know, the multiples on profit are relatively low. Like if you can just run it the way that it's running for a certain amount of time and you just wait, you've paid it off. But if you can identify things that you do well in your business and find a business that everything else is good, except one of the things that we actually smash is missing from them. Could be a social media profile, could be they don't have a front person, could be they don't have automated systems, and that's an area that we really specialize in. Then our head's always looking in that direction.
Yeah, interesting. How often are you doing acquisitions of similar companies like that? Is it something you're looking into or something you've done?
Yeah. Well, we've had a couple of ones that have gotten close, but we haven't got anything as yet.
You haven't closed yet.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's just like it's whatever pops up at the time, and sometimes it goes in cycles. There's lots of quantity surveyors that do the traditional estimating stuff that are basically exiting their business, and many of them just close and aren't even for sale. So we're really closely looking at those to see, well, what could we actually plug into that we can kind of leverage what we do.
Leverage kind of those existing bases and whatnot.
So that's an area of focus for sure. And I mean, AI, like it's an easy thing to say. Everyone's looking into AI, but there's so much coming and the pace of change is so rapid. We're integrating that in our business as much as we can, and little things like image recognition. Like that's going to be a big area for us as well. So that's probably some of the business stuff. I think in terms of like an overall goal, like we used to just be revenue focused. I mean, when we were sort of in the running for the Fast 100, I probably would have paid $1 to make $1. It's so retarded
for the rev perspective. So you're higher on the list.
Yeah, we just needed revenue. It didn't matter if we made any money.
Yeah, I find it's funny that it's based on rev, not profit, because they see both sides of the numbers. It's interesting to me that like it's run off that. You know what I mean?
I think revenue is applause, but profit is the encore that keeps the show going and opens up the next tour. You know, or it might even be the stage that the show is on that gets the applause. Right?
Revenue for vanity and profit for sanity. Right? Like in the essence of as people wanting to pump their own tires up, boasting about rev, and I never talk about rev. I don't talk about either really openly with anyone. But I mean, I never bring up rev because to me it's not important. It's profit. It's what's on the back end that you're actually taking home. Maybe you're doing 20 mil a year in rev, but then $1 million in profit. I'd be worried, you know. But like a lot of people, it's a 5% margin, but people run off that sort of stuff as well. So it's interesting, man. But anyway, dude, I've got 2 quick questions to wrap up to finish the Big Fellas episode, mate. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
I think there's probably 2. Tommy Emmanuel told me that the shortcuts are at the butcher's shop. Which is even more problematic because I don't eat meat. So it's even more off the table. Also had our landlord tell me to bite off more than you can chew and chew like mad. I think those 2 things, they're sort of very flippant things, but there's marrow in them. There
we go. There's definitely a key little takeaway
more
in
meat
that.
Metaphors. You can poke a grill iron.
For someone that doesn't eat meat, there's a lot of meat metaphors being thrown around, man. No, I appreciate it, dude. That's an interesting, it's an interesting point. Man, with one final question that I always love to ask everyone as well. You've obviously been around some high performers, both in business and you would have interviewed on the podcast as well, and yourself with what you guys have achieved too. The final question I always love to finish with is, what do you believe is the number one character trait of the top 1%?
I think it's drive or self-belief. I think you can overcome a lack of skills, you can overcome a lack of knowledge if you believe in yourself and you've got that drive, you've got that chip on your shoulder, you've got that goal or that, trauma from being burnt, all of those things. If you can just harness that, it becomes an absolute superpower. And you will have noticed that you can see people that there's a fire in their eyes.
For sure.
And you just know that they're going to crawl across broken glass with their fly unzipped to get what they're going for.
Mate, I felt that one.
Yeah, I felt me too. I squirm a little bit. I don't know if that's gender neutral. I think, there's still
mate, I think either way it would hurt. Either way it would hurt. I definitely felt it, but mate, I think either option is going to hurt on that one. But man, I agree with you completely. I love it. It's so often when I ask that question, it falls down so similarly into that drive, that passion, the grit, the determination, the perseverance piece of pushing through and going hard, man. Really, it is what typifies when someone can reach the top. You can't reach the top without it. I honestly, but like talent will get you so far, skill will get you so far, but you need to have that drive, that drive, energy, perseverance to get to the top as well. So, mate, I love it, man. I love it. It was a great final takeaway from the episode. And Mike Mortlock, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me on the Top 1% podcast, mate. I'm looking forward to going and have you're not going to have a steak with me. We're going to have something tonight.
We're going to have vegetables and I want them to suffer.
And they probably are also going to have a margarita, mate, because that is our tradition. Mate, it's been great to have you on the Top 1% podcast, man. You're an absolute gentleman. And I'll speak to you very, very soon.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.